Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this Friday look at how the Brexit media is spinning things, I'm going to be taking a look at the concern over one of the new Brexit barriers being raised this year that Boris Johnson and his government have no power to delay or ignore: biometric checks when travelling to the EU. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So I've mentioned this a few times in the past, but basically the EU are bringing in biometric checks for non-EU citizens travelling to the EU. It's been delayed a bit, supposed to be coming in May, it's not, but it's supposed to be now rolled out in September. There's been issues with semiconductors, of course, pandemic, Chinese shutdown and all the rest of it. Now, as I was working on this video, it got very interesting in terms of the detail and the depth. So I'm going to focus on the immediate concerns of Brexit supporters such as the Express on this occasion, it's a good old favourite, and add some more depth next week. But we've had a lucky dodge in that it won't be in place before the summer as originally planned, because that would have been the worst of all worlds. But it is still coming this year. So the major problems are likely, you could argue, to hit in 2023 if we don't get them sorted out this year. But that being said, even the problems we are faced with this year could be ruinous, as I'll explain. So first thing to note is that this wouldn't be an issue if we were still EU members. This is only going to be an issue for us because we are a third country. So I'll point out again, for those waking up to what Brexit means, for those who voted to leave the EU so that we could ignore EU rules, there are two sets of EU rules. The first type are the rules that EU member states and their citizens have to follow. These rules are not a bother, and I have yet to have any Brexit supporter name a single one that in any way impeded their lives. They exist purely to allow all businesses to carry out their business on a level playing field. They don't constrain us. The second type of EU rules are the ones that third countries have to follow if they want anything to do with the EU. These ones are restrictive. That's the point, you see. The benefits of membership is that you don't follow the restrictive rules. Leaving the EU doesn't stop us following EU rules. It's actually dumped us into the barrel of the crap rules. So yay to voting for the crap rules to apply to us. Second thing to note is the potential for disruption. Specifically, there may be the following concerns. Obvious one, there may be delays as people get used to it. You know, that being said, as far as I can tell, there isn't anything inherent in the system that makes it of necessity take ages, so initial disruption can probably be managed in time. You go up to an e-gate, you scan yourself in. But that's for people travelling through an airport. If you're at a seaport, hopping across in a vehicle, like a lorry for example, or even your car, then we've got problems. The e-gates, which make the system work, don't exist for vehicles or groups of people. You all need to individually get scanned one at a time. And you can't do it from your car or your cab. So imagine like a bus load of tourists. Maybe a school trip, doesn't matter. That's going to take a while to process. Can't do it on the bus. And everyone needs to do it one at a time. Think of the delay in getting through the tunnel with a few coach loads of people. But this system is coming in so the EU can better secure its borders. So the Brexiteers should be delighted, no? They love secure borders. They're all about the secure borders. Well, you would think so. But a report in the Express doesn't seem happy at all. They are quoting the Port of Dover as saying that the system will be unsafe. Well, that doesn't sound good. Unsafe in what way? Well, the article talked about people having to leave their vehicles. Yes, like I say, this would be necessary to get to the e-gate. So you'd have people getting out of their vehicles, having to walk over to the e-gate, wherever that can be accommodated, and all the time there's more traffic coming in, a lot of traffic. So managing this without getting people run over is no easy task. So I certainly agree that this has the potential to be unsafe. However, what is making it unsafe is not the system coming online, but that we haven't been working on the infrastructure to implement it despite having years of notice. Not that the Express follows this line of thinking because, you know, the Express. But this is probably because if you pointed this out, the natural question is, why haven't we been implementing this? We've known about this new system coming online for years. Like even as EU members, we'd have needed some infrastructure in place for non-EU citizens because we're not part of Schengen. But obviously, given that now The vast majority of people travelling from Britain to France will need these checks. That infrastructure really needs to be in place. Why isn't it? We've known we've been leaving the EU for over 5 years now. But the Express didn't probe this. They did cite some Conservative MPs from Kent. You know, the ones who pushed Brexit and are now whining about the consequences of their campaign. These MPs said that it would cause massive disruption and the plans were more suited to airports than seaports. Which is an odd statement. Certainly these checks are easier to manage at an airport because you have people trotting around on their own 2 feet or maybe a mobility scooter. Either way, relatively straightforward to manage because everyone has to go through some sort of control anyway. You just put an e-gate there, scan, done. But the point is to secure the border. So of course it has to happen at seaports as well. Otherwise, your undesirable sorts would just go to the EU at seaports. The article went on to push the argument that the government should open talk with Brussels and Paris on how to avoid major queues. Yes, you heard that right. The Express was calling for the British government to open talks with the EU and France. Not issue threats, not throw a strop, not tear up an international treaty, but talk and ask them, how do we deal with this? Because we ain't got a clue, because we're incompetent, you may have noticed. Would it be because there's no unilateral action, legal or otherwise, that we can take to stop this? Because let's discuss the reality for trade. Because never mind coach loads of tourists, they just won't go. What about lorries? Even though lorries won't have lots of people in them, because it's not a scan from your cab, this will lead to significant delays for freight. Massive, in fact. I was talking to someone about this. I tried to find out a bit more from people who might know. And I'll flesh this out further next week rather than spend ages on it now because it's going to be long enough. But the notion was put forward that the Port of Dover may be able to manage between 60 and 100 trucks an hour when you consider what can realistically be achieved with someone having to get out their cab and go over to an e-gate. So that means at best, at the absolute best, in the opinion of this person, about 2,500 trucks a day. Absolute best. Now, consider that the Port of Dover previously proudly claimed it was dealing with 7,000 trucks a day at busy times. An absolute cap at 2,500? Not a chance. So the bottom line is that it will be impossible for us to ever get back up to pre-Brexit levels of trade, even if you still refuse to accept that the delays caused of necessity by customs and standards controls are going to always be there. And it's just not happening. I mean, that can't happen just with the customs controls we now have in place. We've seen that. We have massive tailbacks in January. January levels of trade cannot be coped with. Standards controls are yet to come online. Are they easier to deal with than customs controls? No. But the government can delay those again. They can just say, sod it, let the smugglers do what they like and keep delaying them until someone like China or the USA raises the issue with the WTO or takes unilateral action, which at the moment they're not doing. They can even reverse the customs controls they've already put in. Would be embarrassing, but it's within their power. The EU don't care. Makes life easier for their business. It's only the rest of the world that would care. What they can't do is delay or tone down the checks needed to pass from Britain into the EU. All they can do is try and make life easier by getting the best infrastructure in place to accommodate them, and they haven't been doing so. So if the suggestion is that the UK government should open talks with the EU and France in order to get them to delay these checks, for Britain at least, you're opening up a whole can of worms. First of all, I can't see how the EU could do this. It would give an advantage to Britain over other third countries and their citizens. There's no legal base for doing so without a treaty. But I'm not an expert. Let's say there were a way. Let's just say. The second issue is that you are requiring the EU to compromise the security of their borders. Remember, they're doing this for security purposes. We're no longer closely connected to EU police forces and databases, so their border with us is less secure than when we were in the EU and we had all those networks set up. So we would be expecting them to do us a massive solid just to cover up the reality of our hard Brexit at risk to them. Why would they do this? Remember, we're not just any old third country. We are the third country that not only keeps threatening to tear up our withdrawal agreement, but is in the process of doing so now. We're talking about that tomorrow. We are already guilty of not properly implementing the withdrawal agreement, and this won't be done anytime soon. We refuse to cooperate even on schemes that are in our mutual interests. Why would the EU help us out on this? Even if they could, which I don't know how they can. What price can we offer? assuming, as I say, that it's even legally possible, which I doubt. But the end of the article makes clear the panic that even Brexit supporters will be experiencing here. This isn't about lorry drivers, having to be careful they don't get run over or a bit of a delay. What they noted in the article, that Dover deals with £144 billion worth of freight each year. It handles a third of all our trade. Yeah. I mean, it won't be. It won't be now. The article also mentions someone saying that sticking these controls in with what we have in place for them is basically the same as France just closing their border with us. That's how bad it would be. That's how bad a hard Brexit paper accepts it would be. They're not trying to tone it down. So although it might be possible for the government to do something to avert disaster, though as I've said twice now, no idea what that would be, but I'll try and find out, this has the potential to completely crush our ability to trade. But I'm going to keep trying to find things out to discuss this in more detail later on. Next week is what I'm hoping. But this is bad. This is really bad. It's simply not being discussed either. And when I mean not being discussed, I don't just mean in the media. I'm not sure that the governments are even discussing this. They're too distracted with their own self-survival. So the Express and I agree about something. This is very bad. I wonder which one should be more offended. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. Until next time, I'll see you later.